Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for our championship review and reaction of round number 38. And we have reached maybe the most vital 2 weeks of the entire season now, because we're in the international break. So this is the time where clubs and managers and players get themselves together. We've said we're in the home straight. This is the preparation for the final sprint, and plenty in the way of developing stories. This past round, only one team in the top six gets a win. And down at the bottom, we think possibly, a potentially key swing down at the bottom. We'll see. Remains to be seen whether anyone can or will take advantage over these things. Let me know that you can see me, hear me loudly and clearly, and get involved in the comments throughout the show. We'll be going through all 12 games. I think they're in the right order. There may be one or other in the wrong order there, but that gives you all the results from the weekend. Obviously, we've got Bournemouth playing in the FA Cup. Also, we're going to get into it in just a second. But first of all, let's say thank you to Russ, our fan sponsor, a fan and now a friend, despite Ben's terrible taste in football teams. Thank you to Russ for sponsoring this and all our review shows as the season goes on. He got involved over on Patreon. You can do exactly the same. Get some exclusive content down there. Hopefully, more on the way soon. You can support via Super Chat any point during this broadcast. First Super Chat in a stream becomes the king of the bin. And if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, hit the thumbs up. Help bring more people to the stream. And, of course, have a say. Share your knowledge. Make sure you subscribe. You ring the bell for notifications. I think we're over 14,800 now. So we are closing in on that elusive 15,000 subscriber mark. Right, there you go. There are the results. Let's say hello to Martin and Drew and Liam and Josh and Leeds 2021, Mr. E and Kieran and Sophie and Tom and Kieran and Chris. It's spring-like. Nice. There we go. Right. Let's go through the results as they happened over the weekend. No Friday night game this weekend. So we, I would say we avoided a watch along, but I did Fulham and Leeds, and we'll do some dearly departed stuff later today. So all of the games were on Saturday. There's the early kickoff. Brentford 1, Forest 1. Then the 3 p.m.s went. Barnsley 1, Wednesday 2. Bristol City 0, Rotherham 2, Cov 0, Wickham 0, Millwall 1, Borough 0, Norwich 1, Blackburn 1, Preston 0, Luton 1, Reading 1, QPR 1, Stoke 1, Derby 0, Watford 3, Birmingham 0, and the 5:30, that big Welsh derby ended Swansea 0, Cardiff 1. You can see down the bottom there that Huddersfield-Bournemouth game, which has now been rescheduled for 13th of April. Bournemouth played in the FA Cup. It was Bournemouth 0, Southampton 3. We can take a little look at that in a bit. Right. As ever, we will go to the top of the table first. So get your comments in on Norwich 1, Blackburn 1 in the Chris Sutton, Tom Tribal, Bradley Johnson derby. The win streak is over. So a tip of the cap to Norwich, a pretty decisive 9-game winning streak as we came into the home straight, putting Norwich out front and clear. All good things come to an end, don't they? I'm sure Norwich fans will be thinking, and they succumb to just a draw. Imagine it. First world problems there, as we always kind of knowingly say, but in a congratulatory tone. There are your teams. It was Krill in goal, Aarons, Hanley, Gibson will now be out for the season, we are hearing. Rolled his ankle quite badly. Janulis, looks like he went out injured as well, and Sorensen back in. McLean, skip. Cantwell, Dowell is in the team now. This is a bit of a project for Norwich for the rest of the season. Get Dowell up to speed. Pookie, obviously, up top for Blackburn. Kaminsky, Rankin, Costello and Douglas are the fullbacks. Lenihan, Harwood, Bellis. It's settled a bit now at Blackburn. There was a sense he was trying something different every game. But we've seen, well, there is still a few ins and outs here. Holtby comes in, Evans, Rothwell. No Elliott or Armstrong starting the game. Elliott's going to come on. Brereton, Buckley and Dolan up top. Get your comments in on this one. Here's the opening goal. Nicely worked. Dowell indeed getting the assist here. The key pass through to Kenny McLean. Good finish on his right foot. Just drills that low into the corner for 1-0. And congratulations to Harvey Elliott, who now has 10 assists this season to his name. Puts that to the back post, and Gallagher above Sorensen heads in the set play for the equaliser. What does that do to the table for either team? Not a lot, really. Norwich still miles out in front. And if you really want the Norwich angle on this, it was actually a good weekend because Swansea didn't win and Brentford, Swansea lost. So if you're looking at it as the gap down to third place, that increased by 1 point. But this is, we're in very much hashtag but Norwich mode here, aren't we? They're up and, just playing out these final games now with a 14-point lead over third place. And how many games to go? 9 for Swansea. So potentially Norwich could be promoted with 4 games to go as things are standing. Blackburn, it's a good result. Norwich have been beating everybody, so away they go and get the draw there. Closing in on that 50 points, which Luton and QPR managed to hit as well this weekend. Could do with a winning run. I know we could all do with a winning run between now and the end of the season, just in terms of pressure on Mowbray, possibly, and where things are headed and developing going forward next season. Sophie, Blackburn worth their point. Loss of Gibson is much bigger blow. Yep, absolutely. Mowbray got tactics spot on. Any manager should watch that game, see how to play Norwich. All very well watching it, Chris. You've got to then pull it off, haven't you? Hey, but yeah, kudos, I guess. A really good game. Norwich created more chances, couldn't take them. Draw is fair. Injuries are a disappointment. Norwich now need to win all 8 remaining games to break the points record. Yes, indeed. Let's just getting over the line now, isn't it? Right, moving on. And we've said this. If Carlsberg made football results weekends, you would like to have been Watford this weekend. Get your comments in. Watford 3, Birmingham 0, and the kind of narrative around Watford where, as I said, nobody else in the top 6 won. It couldn't have gone much better for Watford this weekend. And regardless of what anyone else did, at the moment, no one's catching Watford anyway because they've won 9 in 10. So we can all talk about remaining games and about the last 4 games, but at the moment, it's trending in the sort of direction which means that the last couple of games could even be meaningless because you've got Brentford and Swansea slowing down whilst Watford are just accelerating and on their far and away their best run of the season. Obviously, as a neutral, I would love promotion decider on the last game, but you would have to tip your cap if Watford had a 4 or a 6 point lead going into that last 2 rounds against Brentford and Swansea when they play both. There are the teams. I haven't mentioned Birmingham as well. We'll talk about them as it pertains to the bottom of the table because this was not a good round for them. after they'd had a very desirable set of results in midweek. So Watford in goal, Backman, Firmino, Ekong, Sierralta, Messina, Gosling, Hughes, Chalobah, who was excellent actually. João Pedro, Success starts up top, and Sema. So no Sarr, no Zinkernagel. Maybe time for everybody to have a bit of a rest and they can get those two back in after the break. There's your Birmingham team. Is that I think that's unchanged from the important win in Lee Bowyer's first game against Reading in the week. Etheridge, Colin Roberts, Dean Pedersen, Halilovic and Bella wide, Gardner and Harper central, Jutkovic and Hogan up top. And this went exactly how Watford would have wanted. They get in front early. João Pedro, decent enough shot, forces Etheridge into, is your glass half full or half empty? I don't know whether there's much he can do with it if he can't tip it around the post. He tips it out. In comes Ken Sema. Sticks it in the goal. And would you believe... so there's Nat Chalobah heading in on the back post. And only the other day we were talking about Jutkovic dominating everybody on the back post. He's been dominated there is all I can say. He just gets a run on him, Chalobah around the back. And Jutkovic loses him, one of the best aerial guys in the league. There we go. By order of Blues fans, Dong must go. We're back into planes being hired and messages being put above the stadium. The Burma, is he the chief exec? Dong, I think, certainly not been successful, whatever his exact job title is. And the perfect substitution here, Ngakia comes on, Gray comes on, and Ngakia plays it through to Gray. And words we weren't saying a few weeks ago, we were saying the opposite. Great composure from Gray, dribbles it through, sticks it in the net. And Watford, they would have been having a lovely time on Saturday, because now if we look at the table, 8 to go, 6 points clear. And the way things are trending as well is very desirable for Watford, because if you look, Swansea have got 4 points in 4, Brentford have got 5 points in 4, Watford have got 12 points in 4. That's a 7 and an 8 point swing. So not only is it Watford finding a really good winning streak, but it's the other two tailing off, actually. They're going in opposite directions. And yes, again, we can talk about the remaining games until the cows come home, but they might not matter. If that gap stays where it is, and that's obviously taking into account the game in hand, but if it stays around 4 to 6 points, and potentially Watford could play a Norwich side that are already up and maybe drop off in intensity a little bit there. It could all be wrapped up. It needs a kick on from Swansea and Brentford, doesn't it? Else Watford are going to get that second place. Anyway, I've spoken too much about the top. Get your comments in on that. Birmingham had a very bad day, because what you would want down the bottom there is you would want to either match or score more points than the teams immediately below you. You're not going to assume there's going to be many wins coming down at the bottom. It's the bottom, go figure. But what you wouldn't want is for you to lose and the two teams immediately below to win, especially when one of them has 4 games in hand. So we'll talk about Rotherham in isolation, but Birmingham are, and you have to say the same about Coventry, although they do have a game in hand. Birmingham are a lame duck if Rotherham can score some points in their games in hand. That might not happen. We don't know. It's the bottom of the table. Sometimes teams don't win many games for long periods of time. What I will say, coming up at home, Rotherham play Wickham, Rotherham play Birmingham, and a rescheduled game against Coventry. So it really feels like we can literally put the relegation battle into those 3 Rotherham home games. If they lose all of them, they're screwed. But if Rotherham can pick up 4, 5, 6, 7, God forbid, even 9 points from those 3 home games, then both Birmingham and Coventry are in trouble. Get your thoughts in. What are we going to say no Saar either. Yeah, we did mention that Stefan Saar and Zinkernagel not around. Don't know in terms of the injury there. Birmingham consistently averaging around a point a game. They're just below now, though, aren't they, Matt? On that, go and subscribe to Matt's channel as well. No, you're right. Sorry, I knew what I meant. They're on a point per game. Rotherham are above a point per game. So we've looked at 45 all this running. Looked at the 10-year average. Personally, I don't see both teams to answer Matt's question properly. Would 46 points be enough? I don't see both teams getting above 46 points. That would be, both consistent at, obviously we can point to last season where all of a sudden Wigan, Luton, Charlton, Barnsley were all winning at the same time. I'm not seeing that this season, but I wouldn't be surprised if one or other of those teams can get the point per game towards the end, and that might well be enough. Saar injury, not as bad as first feared. Also note the fifth last game is the derby at Luton as well. Indeed. Josh, surprised how well we do without Saar and Zinkernagel. Yeah, Zinkernagel is like an assist machine, isn't he? I think he was like that in his previous league. Given Watford were without Saar and Zinkernagel, brilliant performance. You'd think there is enough about Birmingham to stay up. Interesting. Munoz closing in on Cooper and Ishmael for Championship Manager of the Season. There you go. Probably best not to judge Birmingham on this match. But will they pick up at home? That's the thing. If they just go from abject awful, Chris, to reasonable at home, then you think some points on the board. Birmingham dragged back in. That's all it takes, Nat. All it takes is two direct rivals, one to lose, one to win. We get that whole swing, don't we? And away we go. Again, Rotherham can do it despite a fixture pile-up, siege mentality. And look at all those home games, Chris, as well. They've got Wickham, Birmingham and Coventry still to play at home. Will Rotherham have to play 4 games in 7? I suspect they'll help them, but it'll be 4 games in 8, won't it? In 8 days before the end of the season. I don't imagine they'll try and move one to a Friday night and have the last one on the Sunday. But yes, it looks like that will have to happen at some point. Right, moving on to we're not going to do Swansea and Cardiff next. I have got that in the wrong order. We are going to do Swansea and Cardiff. My bad. Let's do that next. And it was the big derby in Wales. And despite being unable to do it in 6 years at Ipswich, Mick McCarthy wins the Welsh derby at his first go of asking. It was Swansea 0, Cardiff 1. And we have this mad stat, and Swans and Cardiff fans will correct me. No one's ever done the double. Is that right? In over 100 years or something ridiculous. And on we go with that stat because obviously Jamal Lowe and Swansea won the first game. Now Cardiff and Aidan Flint win the second game. Get your thoughts in on this one. And back-to-back defeats for Swansea. 4 points in 4. Swans fans are not going to want to hear it, but a lot of people, me included, and the overarching narrative in the chat over 4, 5, 6 weeks now is that a Swansea trend down based on performance has been predicting itself, and it has happened. So 2 straight defeats for Swans, and the international break after this hard week that they've had comes at a good time. Remember, they were at Bournemouth in the week, weren't they? Anyway, there are the teams. Woodman in goal. Norton, Bennett, Guay returns. Bidwell, Roberts, Grimes, Fulton, Hurahan. He goes out injured in this one. Back of his thigh, I think. Problem there. Hope he's okay. Ayew and Whittaker gets the start up top ahead of Lowe. So Cooper still. Will they be lamenting? It was the guy from Southampton they were going to get in January. Will they be lamenting playing pretty much the season, if you don't count Victor Gyökeres, without a number 9? Will that be, when you see the likes of Tony and Pookie banging the goals in, will that be the difference? Phillips in goal for Cardiff. Morrison, Flint, Brown. Flint is my player of the week in my tribal football column this week. Check that out. That will be going up later today. Rules and Sang. Good job, Rules, stepping across and playing wing back. Pack, Volks, Bakuna, Moore, and Wilson. And you knew that there was a possibility that this would be the way this game played out. Cardiff are going to sit in. They're going to make the game very ugly. They are going to get the ball away from their goal and try and get Morrison and Flint and Moore in the box as often as they can for set plays. And it worked an absolute treat, didn't it? Ayew does hit the post for Swans, but it was Flint, and this is really good from Flint. And you can see even from the picture, when that ball goes loose, just keep your eyes on him. He is waiting for that and he pounces on it. It's a good header. Woodman obviously is on the ground from the initial parry, and Flint bullets the header back into the middle of the goal. Yes, Ayew does hit the post, doesn't he? But they defended it out and they get the win. Only one shot on target for Swans in the game. And look what that does to the table from a Swans point of view. A 6-point gap in there and back-to-back defeats. Yes, there's the game in hand, which is against Sheffield Wednesday and has now, I believe, been scheduled. But what we do need to start doing is we can't view these last games as just being hard for Watford as well. We have to still say it's going to be hard for Brentford to play Watford, and it's going to be hard for Swansea to go to Watford on the last day of the season, isn't it? Especially given the Watford ridiculous home form. So we've got to play that narrative both ways. It's not entirely fair to just pile the pressure on Watford in those last 4 games, if they do indeed matter. But the slip has come. And if you're an optimistic Swans fan, you are now hoping that's it. Knackered, everything, have a rest, 2 weeks, go. Last 8 games of the season. Try and get towards that last game and be within 3 points. Because if you're within 3 points, maybe it'd have to be 2 because of the goal difference. But if you're within 2 points and you can go and beat Watford on the last day, I'd be interested if there's Swans fans watching. Would you take that right now? Would you take a 2-point deficit on Watford with the final game starting? I'd really be interested to know compared to where we are now. And just a straight shootout, winner takes all, depending obviously on what Brentford do between now and then. Cardiff, interesting. Can we still call a playoff challenge there? Do you know the reason we can? Is because the very next game, when we get back, Barnsley are playing Reading. So someone's dropping some points out of 5th and 6th in literally the next game when we get back. And then a Cardiff win would put them closer, obviously, to whoever drops points. So you can't count Cardiff out just yet, even though they're 4 points back. Look at Bournemouth as well, game in hand. Let's have a look at your comments. I've heard that for a Swans team that will defend with all 11. Hourihane, when not injured, is a reluctant defender. Interesting. Hence the increase in goals. Cardiff are not playing well and won't get away with that. Anything else in here? I only saw the later stages of the game. Swans looked a bit unlucky. Whittaker looked to be finding it a struggle, unless I'm being harsh. Mick doesn't play possession football, but his style is effective. Oh, yes, it is. This was classic McCarthy. Solid performance. Not a great watch, it wasn't, was it? Definitely a deserved win for Cardiff. If it wasn't for Barnsley, they would still be in the playoffs, yeah. Liam. Swans, 23 attempts, 1 on target. Well, there you go. There you go. Exactly. And we talked about the number 9. All over for the Swans for automatic, says Steve. And he is a Swans fan. Cardiff did a job on us. Deserves something, but you can throw all the stats at it. We didn't score. There you go. Tom, best defensive performance of the season from Cardiff on Saturday. Had an out-of-position wing-back. Sang and Brown both under 20. All for their points. Flint and Morrison. Did you see Morrison's heel after the game as well? God, I'd stay in bed for about 3 weeks if my heel was like that. Deary, deary me. Any other comments? Almost feel for Cardiff. Who knows where they'd be if Mick joined? Yeah, even 4 weeks earlier. Yeah, I agree. Morgan, I would take that. Any sort of chance would be good for Swans, considering where people thought we would finish at the start. Well, you got to play the context now that they were in second place for a lot of the season. Yeah, and you're right about the blocking and the headache kicking, defending. And McCarthy, I've seen him do that with Christoph Berra and Tommy Smith and Luke Chambers at Ipswich. He sets things up for defenders to succeed. They have the low block, they don't take risks, and you'll keep the clean sheets if A, the opponents don't smash one in the top corner or something. B, you make the headache kick it blocks. Right. Brentford 1, Forest 1. And not quite so violent a slip as back-to-back defeats. Obviously, Brentford had 3 in a row, didn't they? As maybe Swansea are having at the moment. But still, only 4 points in the last 4 for Brentford. And we all don't need telling. In that same 4 games, that Watford have scored 12. So this is the big, big difference. There are your teams there. Thomas Frank coming up against the wily old Chris Hughton and not being able to get past him. Raya in goal. Dalsgaard, Janssen, Reed and Sørensen. Pinnock out in the cold by the looks of it. Not in the first 11 past couple of games. Jensen, Norgard, Janelt. And Buemo, Tony and Canos. So just missing De Silva and Henry probably from their strongest 11 now. Closing in on it, aren't they? Over Ben Rama, I think the Brentford fans are probably thinking as the season gets tight. Although they had him last season, didn't they? Samba in goal for Forest. Christie, Figueiredo, McKenna, Bong. Cafu, Garner. Amiobi, Kravinovic, Myton, the youngster gets to start. Graben back in ahead of the elder statesman, Glenn Murray. Here we go. You know me, I've given up debating penalties, so I'm not going to debate it. This was given as a penalty. Bong pulling Ivan Toney in the box. You can debate it if you want. I'm not going to join in. I'm done with all that this season. So tedious. What I'm not done with is watching Ivan Toney take penalties, because I genuinely think, and I tweeted this the other day, name me a better penalty taker. I'm going back to Matt Letitia and Eric Cantona and Alan Shearer just larraping in the top corner. He just never looks like he's going to miss. I'm sure once he misses one and maybe has to change the strategy, but he is a bona fide proper penalty taker. Tony, stick him in the World Cup squad just to take imagine doing that in the Euros in the semi-final shootout or something. Great finish this by Kravinovic, I have to say. The ball bounces to him nicely, but he just strokes that in the corner. And I often quote Ian Wright on this, but Ian Wright says you have to go cold when you get your chance. And he just relaxes up and just strokes. Look at his body shape even. Just beautiful from Kravinovic, first time into the corner. I think when we bring the numbers up, Brentford hit the woodwork, didn't they? I didn't. So you're looking at that 4 big chances to 1. Hit woodwork twice. Only the 4 shots on target, but that is 2 points dropped by the numbers. But you've got to win the game, haven't you? And Brentford did not win the game. And there they are. And I can pretty much reiterate all the comments I made for Swansea, for Brentford now. They've got a 7-point gap with a game in hand. They do have that goal, that prolific 65 on the goals, but it does look like, that's not gonna mean a thing as well, because Watford's defensive work is the fewest goals conceded in the entire division. So it's going to be hard, and all eyes on Brentford versus Watford, the second last game of the season. And it's almost like Brentford are going to want Swansea to do them a favour on the last day of the season. Brentford are going to want to try and get ahead of Swansea, beat Watford, and then hope Swansea beat Watford. There's your 6 points in the last 2 games. So that's the scenario of a 6-point swing very quickly, although that would be the doomsday scenario if you were a Watford fan. Forest, no wins in 6. They have had a hard run. Still Cardiff to play next. The fixtures get easier after that. So I am projecting that Forest will start to close in on around 50. They might not get there, but with 7 to go, I think they can get those final 8 points. No, I think they will get 50, actually. There you go. There's a hot take from me. And I think they'll move away. Just got to get through this run and have an entire summer with Chris Hughton stopping Mr. Marianakis doing crazy stuff. Let's have a look at the comments here. Tony is so good, but Brentford seem bereft of ideas without him making magic. Perhaps we'll find out, won't we? But yeah, I can't really argue against that. Forest were slightly improved, but Brentford are throwing it away. Brentford were poor. Decision to drop Pinnock to accommodate Reed has cost them again. Interesting. Can't see Brentford hanging on to Tony if they're not promoted. No, you wouldn't have thought so. He's been fantastic. Hasn't he? Has there been more penalties this season? Yeah, of course there has. It's been ridiculous, hasn't it? Brentford and Swansea is so dominant in attacking and possession whilst also being defensively solid. They just can't seem to score. Yeah, very, very true. Very, very true. Oh, Neil Adams, yeah, he was cracking penalty taker. Paul Gallagher, yeah. You got to love it. You got to love it, isn't it? It's criminal Tist, isn't it? Do you know, I saw Matt Lattis, probably the reason he didn't get many more calls. I saw him play for England, and he started up front with Shearer, and they lost 1-0 at home to Italy, and yeah, he didn't get back in. Tony or Lyle Taylor, very similar, isn't it? Very, very similar in terms of the penalty technique. Tony is just, I'd love to watch them all back to front. He's got it where it just seems, I don't know how one of them's going to be saved, because he seems to have an idea which side he's going to go, but he's able to change his mind and watch the keeper. And that's the perfect storm when it comes to penalty taking, isn't it? Right. Speaking of the perfect storm is over for Barnsley. That wonderful, wonderful run. I think it was like 11 or 12 undefeated. Never mind the undefeated. It was the 9. Was it 8 wins in 9 or 9 wins in 10? I can't remember. Sorry, 12 without defeat going into this, and I think 9 wins in 10. So again, as we did with Norwich, tip of the cap to Barnsley. Outstanding run, but they now need to regroup and they've got to come back. And as we've already mentioned, a gigantic, huge game when they get back. Barnsley versus Reading in the next game, which doesn't feel like winner takes all. It feels like loser loses everything in that game, because the loser of that game is going to be the one that people are targeting, and a draw, if there's wins behind them, sucks them both back. So, yes. Anyway, they lost 2-1 to Wednesday here. Barnsley, excuse me. Collins in goal. Solbauer returns. Hellick, Anderson, Stiles and Britton, Mowat and Palmer. Mowat, obviously, suspension or overturned from that red card at Wickham. Woodrow, Freezer, DK up top. For Wednesday, Wildsmith in goal. Ergaheed, Lees, Burner, Palmer and Reach, Pelupessy, Bannon, Patterson, Windass, Rhodes. And Jordan Rhodes may not be the same player he was when he played for Huddersfield or Blackburn back in the day. But what we do know is if you give him chances within the width of the goal on a regular, level, he scores loads of goals, doesn't he? And he gets 2 this round. Here's the opener. It's really good from Bannon, but how many times have we said that? Bannon, half volley, just kind of drives that cross in. You can see him in the top of the picture there, Bannon. Great stuff from Rhodes, just glances it into the corner. And then a nice tap in for the second goal, nicely assisted by Josh Windass. And a bit of a fortuitous one back. Morris gets his shot off, big deflection there, sends Wildsmith the wrong way. And Wednesday hold out for the win. Now, we've all been aboard the Barnsley train and enjoying very much their run up the table. So they've got to 5th. we're into the last international break, and it's just now the sprint for the line, isn't it? And you're looking at Barnsley's total there, 64, 8 games to go. They were to get 11 points from the last 8, which is doable. They're at 75. If they can set the sights a bit higher and it's 12 or 13, 76, 77 points, and you're starting to think they're definitely going to be in the playoffs with that sort of number, especially when you consider what the Bournemouth and Cardiff total is right now and the likelihood of them getting into high 70s being low. Obviously, you don't want a winning streak to be followed by a not winning streak. And I will repeat, next game is Barnsley against Reading. For Sheffield Wednesday, they're not out of business yet, are they? Birmingham lost. Wednesday are 6 points behind. They have a game in hand. That game in hand is against Swansea, however. And look, anything can happen. They've got 4 points in the last 2. If they get 4 points in the next 2, then you're looking at 36 points with 7 to go. If they were to get 2 points per game from the entire rest of the season, they would have 18, which is a very tall order, I will admit. That's championship form. That would take them to 50. I think that would be more than enough. We've been talking for a while about 46, 47 seems to be probably where 21st will be, and we don't know what's going to happen below that. So let's see. What I did note down about Sheffield Wednesday, though, Watford away next. So they've still got to play some of the very, very top teams in the division before all is said and done. What else have we got here? What can we talk? Rhodes, never been trusted like this before. Really, not that we've had better option. There you go. Wednesday, we're just a better team. Tired legs in the Barnsley squad. I will say we had a perfectly good goal disallowed at 0-0. Will I be doing Barnsley Reading? We'll see what the TV companies do, Joseph. But I would love to watch that game. Anything else in here? We are second bottom because of the 6 points deduction. Is that still the case? Just, isn't it? How's the goal difference? Yeah, so if you added the 6 points on, Wednesday would be above Birmingham by 3 goal difference. But we're in ifs, buts, and maybes now. It is what it is. There's a 6 point deduction. Just got to go, haven't they, Wednesday, and see what they can do. Going into the break on back of defeat is not ideal. Ideally, you play midweek. Can Big Val pick them up? Well, he's been doing the business, hasn't he, Alex? We have to give him a pass. Barnsley v Reading next. Well, there we go. I'm there, Tom. I'm all over it. Dare I believe, Nat, or Captain, as Shaley calls you. You dare believe. Come on. That's the best thing about being a football fan is the hope. Logan, yes, we will do. We'll be doing some international games. Right. Let's move on. And it is Reading, who we've already mentioned many, many times in this show, and their upcoming dramatic game, possibly against Barnsley. I was at the one of the few games I managed to get into this season. I was at the Barnsley or the Reading game against Barnsley at the start of the season when Struber was still manager of Barnsley and when Reading were winning 7 out of their first 8 games. How things change, although Reading is still up in the top 6, but it's another little slip, isn't it? Like Swansea, like Brentford, 2 points in the last 3 for Reading. And you know how that ends if that sort of run continues. They're still in there. They're in 6th, though. Barnsley have gone above them. And it was 1-1 against QPR. And from what I've heard, how neither team managed to win this and score more than 1 goal is quite a surprise. Look at that, 31 shots on goal in this game. I think there was an open goal from Maite. I think Johansson had one blocked. Dykes flew one just past the post. Moore had one disallowed. It could have been a lot larger scoreline. There are your teams. Raphael, Holmes, Moore, Gibson, Richards. So still without Morrison, Reading, Laurent Rinamoto. They've gone back to the 4-2-3-1. Maite, Elise, Ejaria, Zhao. They've got star power, haven't they, Reading? You can't. I mean, look at that front four. You can't deny that, can you? For Rangers, Dieng, Barbe, DeVries, Dickey, Wallace and Kake, Johansson, Field, Chair, Dykes, Austin, and Lyndon Dykes is going to score a goal from open play. I think we might have been waiting all season for this one. Here it comes. Lee Wallace squaring it across the box, and he taps in. And if you're a Rangers fan, you really want that money that was spent on Dykes earlier in the season to pay off at some point. So good to see him getting on the score sheet, which is what Yaku Maite is doing very consistently at the moment. He's been excellent since he's returned. Mugs off. I think that's Rob Dickey on the floor, isn't it? And mugs off Dieng actually through the legs. Very serviceable striker at championship level. Maite, isn't he? He, given a run in most teams, is probably going to get you 15 goals. Makes them himself sometimes, doesn't he? So here's the situation. And again, I reiterate, Reading play Barnsley next. So just a huge, huge game in terms of who ends up being the team that the likes of Bournemouth and Cardiff and Borough and less likely Millwall and Stoke making a chase at. They've been in there all season, haven't they, Reading? But this must be the lowest they've been since about week 3, I would have thought, Reading, because they were just winning from the opening day, weren't they? So they're there to be shot at. Can they get back into form? And with 2 weeks to go, can they get, for goodness sake, Morrison, Swift, all the Reading team that we think, which is sort of Raphael and Richards and Yidam, Morrison and Moore, Rinamoto and Laurent, and then Zhao up front with Puskas in reserve, and then any 4 of Swift and Semedo and Maite and Elise and Ejaria. If they're all fit, I think they're in the playoffs, but got to get them on the pitch, haven't they? And this is the issue, I think, for Reading now. QPR are in very nice form. 29 points in 15. How's about that? Only Barnsley, Watford and Norwich have more points in the last 15 games than QPR, who are, sorry, let me put the table back up. Moving on up nicely, could finish in the top 10 if things keep trending in the same direction. Tom, Zhao, Elise have looked untouchable, but I think we could do with dropping in now Mr. Winger. Yeah, sometimes a rest will do you good. Not yet. Yidam and McIntyre both got injured as well. Both teams had chances to win the game. A draw was a fair result. Ejaria, sensation. Have you seen Ejaria's dribbling stats as well? Off the charts. Could have gone either way. It was the struggling Zhao who missed the open goal. Maite switched to the diamond. Excuse me, Reading switched to the diamond at half-time, looked better. Last 15 minutes, Rangers looked like the only winner. Still waiting for Wednesday, Swansea, Rotherham, Coventry. Goodness me. How can that not be scheduled yet? Yes, can't wait for Barnsley, Reading. Really, really looking forward to that one. Does Reading lack of depth cost them the playoffs? I mean, possibly. It's so difficult because unless you have 2 players for every position now, if you get the sort of thing Reading had where it's been key players for Reading as well, hasn't it? It was Richards and Moore and Zhao all at the same time in December, wasn't it? So, as I always say, sometimes depth, squad size, whatever, if you 3 key players get, if Charlton, Law and Best all got injured for Manchester United at the same time in the late 60s, then even they would have sucked, wouldn't they? So there we go. Right, let's do a quick little look at Bournemouth, who played in the Cup. You don't need to necessarily comment on this, but we'll throw the goals up because there's a couple of good ones in here. That is Gineppo sliding that in with the right foot. This is a great goal from Redmond. Mugs Steve Cookoff, who you can see is on the floor as Redmond bullets that into the top corner. Redmond gets another one here, strokes that home. It's rebounded out to him. He's put it in first time into that big gaping hole that Begovic has left. I know I haven't got them highlighted, but just check Bournemouth there. It was a good weekend for them without even playing because all of the 4 teams in the playoffs dropped points. So a Bournemouth win, and shall we bring up and have a look at the Bournemouth schedule in their game in hand, would tie them up on points. However, who are they playing? Middlesbrough, okay. Blackburn, Coventry, Huddersfield, then Norwich away, ouch. Millwall, Brentford, Wickham. So it is, other than those Norwich and Brentford games with sort of 5 to go, isn't the worst run-in you've ever seen for Bournemouth. They would quite like to be playing Barnsley or Reading, although they've recently played Barnsley and lost. So you always want to be going against the teams that you're trying to usurp in the table. Any Bournemouth comments? Maybe no bad thing for Bournemouth losing this one. Yeah, there you go. 2 VAR disallowed goals. Let's watch 6 games of football. I can't believe you don't have a headache, Liam. Bournemouth versus Borough. Yes, good. Good. I should have got that Woodgate narrative, shouldn't I? In that one, very well said, Tom. Right. Speaking of Borough, it was Millwall 1, Borough 0, and honestly, both of these sides are in reasonable enough form that were there a big slip from anyone ahead, they probably would make up the points. But it's going to take a combination of both. It was Millwall 1, Borough 0. Millwall only 3 defeats in 15, 20 points in 11 games for Millwall. So if they win the next one, 23 from 12, they're nearly at the magic 2 points per game for quite a long while, aren't they? Borough, 16 points in 9. So despite this loss, both sides are putting the points on the table. Just that gap, and I suppose it's just keep winning and hope for a big slip ahead. But the general form is decent from both. There are your teams in this one. Bialkowski, Cooper, Wallace, Hutchison, McNamara, Malone, Mitchell, Woods, Evans, Wallace and Bennett up top. For Borough, Bettinelli, Hall, Fry, Buller, Spence and Johnson wide. Howson, McNair, he's now back in midfield. It's good season, McNair, hasn't he? Tavernier, Akpom and Balassi. And if you saw my tweet or Neil Warnock's quotes, you'll know that Neil Warnock was not very happy with his strikers or his forward players, so to speak, after this one. Here's the only goal. Jed Wallace. He's not a striker. He's playing up top. Neither is Mason Bennett, but he will give you really good running power, dribbling directness, and it works a treat here because they don't need to score their own goals because Grant Hall is going to have to intercept that cross with Mason Bennett behind him, sticks it into his own net, and Millwall get the win. Yes, we may be clutching at straws to try and generate a debate about a potential playoff challenge for either. Obviously, Borough have got 4 points more than Millwall, but if you go with what was Borough's recent record, 16 points in 9, got 8 to go, stick another 16 points on there, 72. See where you are. You'd think it would be hard for Barnsley not to get 72. Reading, who knows? Especially if Barnsley beat them in the next one. So, yeah, and Millwall, just too little too late, isn't it? That big run without a win. And they would be maybe looking at that 8th position where they've been twice in the last 3 seasons. Let's have a look at your comments. We're now 6 games without a draw. Not the prettiest. Defended well. Mentioned for Billy Mitchell. Yeah, he's good player. Billy Mitchell. Our season is now over. We would need a miracle. Okay. Bournemouth, Watford and Barnsley next 3. Well, I suppose at least, David, there's the opportunity to take the direct points. You know, if you're going to get in the playoffs, you've got to beat these teams anyway when you're in the playoffs. So, Warnock would probably prefer that if you look at it, if there is games there against Bournemouth and Barnsley, they're the direct opponents, but look, they're going to have to beat both of them, aren't they, to get in? And then they're probably going to have to beat one or other of them again in the playoffs at some point. Mill probably too far back. Swansea, Brentford, Bournemouth and Watford to play. They could be dangerous spoilers, especially with their ability to draw games and not lose. And we know in a title chase, a promotion chase, whatever it is, draws will kill you, especially when teams like Watford, 9 in 10, Norwich, 9 in a row, Barnsley, 9 in 10, draws will kill you. Looking promising without Zohore, Keith and Belden, Leonard back after the break. Still hopeful of 8th. Need 8 wins for the playoffs. Yeah, not happening. But we'll give a game to Bournemouth, Swansea. Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I think you agree with Mr. E there. I've seen this tweet about Bart. I'm going to make a bitter Ipswich-based comment here, Alex. Isn't it amazing if the manager lets the goalkeeper play to his strengths and sets him up to succeed? How a goalkeeper can succeed, isn't it? But maybe Mr. Lambert and Mr. Hurst at Ipswich didn't quite manage to do that as it pertains to Mr. Bielkowski. Sorry, I've got a pot of tea here. I'm drinking away. Right, Stoke 1, Derby 0. And Stoke move on to 52 for the season. Again, they're not quite on the beach yet, are they? Maybe if they'd drawn this one, they possibly would be. But they're winning the games. And one thing I will say about Stoke, okay, Stoke, 10 points off the playoffs, 8 to play. Their highest ranked remaining opponent is Bournemouth, Stoke. So they have none of the top 6 to play between now and the end of the season. So who knows? There's always arguments to make about people having good runs on paper. Whether it pans out like that or not, I don't know. Davies in goal for Stoke, Chester, Suter, Bart, Norrington, Davies and Smith, Thompson, Mikel, Allen, Powell and Brown. Powell injured. That doesn't look good. Hopefully that's nothing major. Roos in goal for Derby, Wisdom, Mengi, Clark, Byrne, Buchanan, Knight, Shinnie, Roberts, Kazim Richards and Louis Sibley. And the only goal of this one was headed in by Jacob Brown, isn't it? On the back post. Quite a clever header, actually, because I think keeper thinks he's going across him and he puts it in on the near post. So that leaves Stoke, as I said, on 52 in 11th. I mean, again, like with Millwall, like Chris was just saying, 8 straight wins. Yeah, maybe there's your 24 points to get to 76, but highly, highly unlikely. And the beach does seem to be pending for Stoke, and we'll see. We'll see what the deal is with Michael O'Neill. Can they manage to do some FFP type cleverness and back him in the summer without parachute payments now going forward? This will be Stoke's last season. It's their 3rd season down, isn't it? Yeah. Derby have only got 40 points. They're 5 off the relegation zone. They are 7 games without a win. They've still got Reading, Norwich and Swansea to play. They need some wins, don't they, Derby? Very, very quickly. Obviously, we think Coventry and Birmingham are in more trouble, and the table would tell us that. What I will say is if you're Derby, you're probably thinking that the other teams will all trip each other up, especially with Rotherham playing still Birmingham and Coventry between now and the end of the season, that they'll take enough points off each other. But yeah, you certainly do wonder. I mean, let's be really worst case scenario here for Derby, and let's give them 0 points for the games against Reading, Norwich and Swansea. Who knows? Let's just do that as an exercise. So then 5 games, a point per game from each of those games, and it's only 45, isn't it? So yes, they need to buck a couple of trends to get up to between 45 and 50, where safety will ultimately lie, we would think. Let's have a look at your comments. Ridley, never been worried about the league position, but even now I have to say the relegation battle is too close for comfort. Yeah. Derby are in real trouble. Rooney showing his inexperience by calling out players. Waghorn, the latest. What do you say about Waghorn? Virtually nobody playing well. Rumours, he's lost the dressing room. Interesting. Another poor performance from Derby. We've been playing direct under Rooney and defensively solid to try and play on the ground. This lot aren't capable of it. Back to basics. That's the sort of thing that keeps you up, though, in the end. A quick flip where you say, right, last 8 games, back to basics. Exactly what McCarthy did when he went into Cardiff. No messing around. Get the ball away from our goal. A point per game and we're up. So, maybe that is correct and that's the way forward. Preston 0, Luton 1, and goodbye, Alex Neil. This was his last game as manager of Preston after nearly 4 seasons. So good luck to Alex Neil. I dare say, and we did a stream on this yesterday. I dare say he'll be back. He's only 30. He's 39. He's 40 in June, I think. And he's got essentially 5 seasons of Championship football as a manager under his belt. And a Championship promotion. So someone will give Alex Neil a Championship job, surely, within the next 6 or 8 months. I just can't imagine someone that young with that experience not being hired again, unless he goes off to a different league. Some links with Aberdeen, I think, in Scotland, but depends which way he wants to go. But yeah, good luck to him and whoever goes in at Preston, caretaker managers until the end of the season. Iverson in goal for Preston, Vandenberg, Story, Lindsay, Rafferty, Ledson, Whiteman. I think that's a return for Ledson, isn't it? Gordon, Johnson, Sinclair, Evans up top. For Luton, who we're having a lot of fun talking about their stupendous away form. I'll bring the away table up in a minute as it pertains to how few goals they've scored. Sluger in goal, Bree and Clark, fullbacks, Pearson, Naismith. Naismith is still playing centre-back, brilliant. And Panzu, Ray, Dewsbury Hall, who in my tribal football column this week, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is the loanee of the week. Tunnicliffe, Adebayo and Cornick up top, but none of those players got the winning goal because it was James Collins off the bench. Here he comes. Did it go down as an own goal, actually? He kind of plays it laterally back in from the angle. It hits Iverson and goes over the line. So I don't know whether that's gone down as an own goal or whether that's gone down as James Collins' goal. Who cares? Because from a Luton point of view, as ever with Luton, when they score 1 goal away from home, they win, don't they? And let me just bring that up because it just makes me laugh. So with 9 goals, the maximum possible points you could have is 27. Luton have got 23, which is just incredible. So basically, they've managed to win 7 games out of 9 goals. That involves a lot of good game management and a lot of clean sheets, doesn't it? So well done, Luton. And just well done, Luton. Generally, they are up to 50 points. So outstanding stuff from Luton. They look nice and safe. They may not want to take to the beach, but if they wanted to, they could and try and push really towards the 60-point mark with 9 games to go, point per game, and then on 59, which would be tremendous. And Preston, well, it's just get some wins. They look far enough off, probably need 4 or 5 more, 3 or 4 more points to not be looking over their shoulders. You know, there's a lot more teams with a lot worse problems. But hey, if the losing keeps on continuing, then those teams will go past them, and they just need to get over the line and fix things up. Iverson own goal, indeed. Summer could be interesting. Neil, Howe, Harris, Wilder. Wow. You can imagine he won't be out of work for long here. Classic Luton away performance. Standouts were Naismith. It's so strange. Centre-back and Panzu in midfield. Excellent. Preston's caretaker manager may have been too close to Neil to arrest their decline. Interesting. Luton are finishing strongly. Could easily have 5 points more. If buts and maybes there. We're staying up this year, thank God. And this time last year, we had 35. Really? With that? Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a big jump, isn't it? For what it's worth, the current top three in the next Preston manager betting are Ainsworth, Appleton and McCann. Interesting. Top 12 finish for Luton would be outstanding. Yes, it would. Yeah, really, really, really good stuff. They are setting the bar for future seasons. Right, 2 to go. Bristol City 0, Rotherham 2. And along with Watford winning and nobody else up at the top, this was the story down at the bottom of the table. Wasn't it? Bristol City 0, Rotherham 2. And Rotherham on the points per game, which you can say what you like, but gives us some kind of idea. Rotherham will stay up on the points per game if they can do what they've done in the previous, whatever they've played, 34, I think, 34 games over the next 12 games. They've just got to replicate it and hope Birmingham replicate this, what they've done. And they will stay up. Easier said than done, of course, and easy for me to say as well. There are your teams: Bentley in goal, Hunt and Sessignon, Callis and Mariappa, Masengo. Walsh returns. Interesting. O'Dowda, who I think got hurt again, didn't he? I can't remember. Palmer, Wells and Jeju. For Rotherham, Johansson, Ihekwa, Wood, McDowell, Giles and Harding, Wing, Barlaser, Crooks, Smith and Ladapo. Here are the goals. And I like Dan Bentley, but a bit of a day to forget, I suspect. Comes for that cross, does not get it. Michael Smith heads it in, and I could repeat the same things with Richard Wood here in the crowd from the box, and just both goals sailing over his head, sadly, into the net. Not sad at all, though, if you're a Rotherham fan, because have a look at that. So, yes, games in hand are very much an unknown quantity, aren't they? We cannot say for certain anything will happen in these games in hand, but there's opportunities there. One win in any of those games in hand, if you put it like that, puts them level. Obviously, Birmingham's goal difference. So Birmingham have scored 10 fewer and conceded 3 more. So the goal difference goes in Rotherham's favour. And again, I will reiterate, still games for Rotherham at home to Wycombe, Birmingham, and the one against Coventry that needs to be rescheduled. Bristol City, now is this classic beach? Nearly. They are 14 points off relegation and 13 points off the playoffs. I want it to be exactly the same number for perfect symmetry, but horrible home form. That is a 6th straight home defeat for Bristol City. Let's have a look at your comments. Surprised no one is sniffing around Paul Vaughan, doing a great job. Yeah, it just feels like he's almost too ingrained in Rotherham, where people think, oh, he's not a good football manager, he's a good Rotherham manager, if you know what I mean. But yes, he will, though, if they go down, be probably, I can't imagine it's been done before, the same manager relegated 3 times with the same team from the same division. Interesting. O'Dowda engineer, not good news. He just got back. Right, finally, Coventry 0, Wycombe 0. We won't put any pictures up from this one. Didn't sound like the most entertaining. Only 2 shots on target in the game. And there are the teams. Wilson, Rose, Ostigard, Hyam, Darbo, McCallum, James, Kelly, Hamer, O'Hare, Biamu. For Wycombe, Stockdale, McCarthy, Jacobson, Stewart, Tafazoli, Gape, Whelan and Metti, Musquay, Knight and Ikpezu. 0-0 in this one, and we will go straight to the table. So we'll do Wycombe first. Wycombe are 11 points. 11 points off safety. So if that goes to 1 more, they could be relegated, all bar the shouting, with a massive goal difference swing. With 4 games to go, that would be in 4 games' time. So Yes, only the 6 wins for Wycombe so far this season. Coventry is a bit more complicated, isn't it? Obviously, they have that game in hand. I believe it's against Rotherham, though, isn't it? So just massive games coming up. It's all about staying above that point per game. You can see Birmingham 38 for 38. So they're on a point per game. Rotherham 35 from 34. I'm sure they may go below it, above it, below it, or something between now and then. Coventry 2 above it. Derby 2 above it. And all of those teams have played different amounts of games as well. So it's going to be an absolute shootout at the bottom. Just remember, sometimes it's less exciting than we'd imagine. And if you're not sure down the bottom, assume the status quo, because teams are down there because they cannot win important games. Evan, Cov should have been 2 up in 10 minutes. Not got the quality. Really not good enough by Cov. They fire too many blanks at home, bearing in mind their poor away record. Matt, we're sleepwalking into the relegation battle. Draws don't do much when the others are winning. No. But across the season, draws are okay, aren't they? Just getting that point per game. But it's a tough one, isn't it, when there's teams below you with those games in hand. Just big games. Again, I'll repeat them. Rotherham at home to Wycombe, Rotherham at home to Coventry, and Rotherham at home to Birmingham, all still to come. Staying up, starting to look a bit trickier for the Chairboys. Former player Ainsworth to Preston in the summer. Hope not. No. Yeah, you would want Ainsworth to stay in there at Wycombe, and Ikpeazu and Mehmeti to also stay there as well. Right, guys. Let me know who your team of the week is. Just put your team down there. You don't need to put a reason. Just put your team. Let me give you some options. If in doubt, don't choose the team you support, because that ruins everything for everybody, as I always say. Let's just go with the winners. Who is your team of the week? You could go for Sheffield Wednesday, who got a first win in forever. You could go for Rotherham. I think I might go for Rotherham. They livened things up. Millwall, you could go for. They are continuing their good run. They beat Borough. You could go for Luton, who have managed to get to 50 points. Tremendous stuff. You could go for Stoke. Watford would be a good shout, although it does feel like most of the good work for Watford this week was done in the other stadiums, wasn't it? They did their job, but a lot of results going for Watford. A great weekend for Watford. You could go for Cardiff, who won away at their nearest and dearest rivals, Swansea. So I suppose with that being a local derby, I'm between Cardiff, Watford, and Rotherham. I think one of those three for me, probably Rotherham. I reckon. What are you guys saying? Rotherham, Wednesday. Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned Wednesday, shouldn't I? Cardiff, Wednesday, Reading for finally drawing. There you go, Cardiff. Fairly mixed. A few shouts for Cardiff in there as well, which is obviously understandable given the gravity of the old South Wales derby down there. Right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We are in the international break. So my plan is I'll do the Dearly Departed stuff, and then I'm going to work on a playoff video, and then I'll work on a relegation video, and then we'll see where we are in a day or two. But tweet me any ideas for any content, and I will need to be filling it. We will be here for the England games and maybe home nations games, so there will be a couple of watch-alongs as well. Right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And it is a big over and out from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button, and to be notified every time we upload, ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.